Welcome back to the Dimers Sports Betting Podcast. It's Greg with Dave, and it's our first episode of Week 8 of the NFL season. My friend, how are you this lovely Tuesday morning?
Greg, I'm doing great. Pretty great Cowboys win. Pretty great Lions win for you. So we're riding into Week 8 pretty high. So very good stuff.
Spirits are
Ready to
high.
dive in.
Yeah. Spirit's incredibly high from my perspective. We will cover a lot in this program, as we always do. We've got Week 8's early preview from the NFL slate. We've got your fantasy waiver wire. College Corner is back for some CFB talk. There's PGA bets to make, and on Tuesday, October 21st, it is the first day of the NBA season. We'll even take a broad look at the NBA and figure out if there are any ways to bet futures as the season begins. But let's begin, as always, with our Week 7 NFL recap. Rashee Rice was back for Kansas City, and he was back in style. What'd you learn, Dave?
Only 19 routes for the stud, caught 7 balls for 2 touchdowns. I think only about 40 yards, but they sort of eased him in, even though they said they were going to give him a full workload. And he took right off and did what he did. Not great news for Xavier Worthy. I think Rashard Smith was the second leading receiver in this game. So what this means for fantasy stuff is going to be more murky than the clear answer that is the Chiefs are all the way back.
They are working Smith in more, which was something on my radar a couple of weeks ago. I think it caught a mention in passing on this very program, but seems a lot through the air right now, not on the ground. A lot of moving parts, but Rice seems to be Patrick Mahomes' favorite target, and he is back. We would expect more coming soon. We had a game of a lifetime, really. I know that sounds crazy, but this was an all-time historical NFL comeback that the Denver Broncos staged against the New York Giants. There was chaos. It felt like whoever had the ball last would win, and that ultimately played true. Both these teams shared possessions in the final 2 minutes. A missed extra point opening the door for a Denver walk-off field goal. It was chaotic. It was fun. It was shocking, but man, it was also 2 teams with some pretty impressive offensive displays. Bo Nix, 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. The first player in NFL history with 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns all in one quarter. How surprised were you by what happened with Denver's comeback?
I mean, it was nuts. It's the second, 33-point comeback we've seen in the last couple of years. That notorious Vikings one against the Jeff Saturday Colts. But for it basically to all be in the fourth quarter is absolutely bonkers. I'm gonna go watch that fourth quarter probably after I finish work today, just to relive that, because it was absolutely insane. That's the type of madness we love on NFL Sundays. Certainly, unless you took something like the Giants to win, in which case you don't. But
which I took live when they took a 7-0 lead early in this game. I was very excited. I thought that they were moving the ball at will, and I sat back. I went to dinner. I didn't even look at my phone. Got home. I'm like, wait a second, this game's a 1-possession game. At a certain point, you can't even be mad your bet lost. You've just got to appreciate the chaos that was that comeback. And Bo Nix and Jackson Dart both played well. The interception proved huge from Jackson Dart. We'll see if he learns from that going forward. From 2 quarterbacks who put on a crazy display in that Denver, New York game, to 2 quarterbacks that went down this week. Bryce Young and Jaden Daniels, both with injuries. 2 teams here with playoff hopes. Shockingly, Carolina is in the mix with a winning record now, and a lot of people liked Washington in the preseason. I don't like them nearly as much if Jaden Daniels is going to be in and out of the lineup. What say you on the 2 injuries?
Early plus money value identified by the Dimers model in the offseason for the Commanders to miss the playoffs. I think it was about plus 130. I think we had that at something around 49% or maybe even above 50, but it was a big misprice, and pretty much looks like that's over. We'll talk a little bit about the state of the NFC playoffs picture in this program, but I'm sure when we see our futures, they may even be behind the Cowboys and Giants, despite the record being pretty close for those 3 teams.
Yep. All right. And then lastly, looking forward, kind of merging last week into this week, bye week Armageddon, as we call it. The Cardinals, Lions, Jags, Raiders, Rams, and Seahawks all on bye this week. It's my least favorite part of the NFL season, when it feels like you're getting 70% of a weekly slate. But I don't know. How do we take in the bye weeks that are yet to come here, Dave?
Hopefully, some of the guys we point out on the waiver wire segment will help you navigate that. Probably going to have to find some fill-in wide receivers and running backs, tight ends. So Projections Hub will definitely be your friend this week on dimers.com, as we will have everybody's PPR points, touchdowns, yards, and all that projected right up until game time.
Yep. All right, there you have it. That is what happened in week 7. Now let's talk some takeaways from last week in the NFL.
The week that was.
Quarterback carousels on the move here, Dave?
Yeah, well, from injuries to who's losing their job, I've set the line personally at over under 1.5. We may not even get the answer until after, as the Cardinals, as mentioned, are on bye week. But 3 guys who I think probably, or not probably, but may have played their last snap of the season for their team. Tua Tagovailoa, maybe put the capstone on what has been just a roller coaster career, and pretty much this season has been a microcosm of that. 11 touchdowns, 10 picks this year. Over his last 2 weeks, 1 touchdown, 6 picks. Like any drive that even remotely started to get going seemed like it was immediately snuffed out. Probably the only reason we didn't cash a ×2 on the first touchdown round robin was because the Dolphins could not get down the field and let A-Chain do his thing. He still had a very good game. Probably the only bright spot on this team for the rest of the season. Just kind of have to wonder where they're going from here. It just looks like it's not going to happen. Mike McDaniel looks checked out, and I'm wondering if this is just going to roll right into Tua simply not playing or starting for this team anymore. Sticking in that division, Justin Fields, bench for Tyrod Taylor in the Jets' latest loss. Now has as many games without a passing touchdown as he does with one. Injuries, benching aside, 3 games with under 50 passing yards for Justin Fields. His best game came against the pitiful Dolphins, and I just think we have seen that probably run its course as well. I don't know if there's any trade value there for the Jets, but it just looks like the Fields experiment is over on yet another team. And Jacoby Brissett did not lose the job, maybe took the job from Kyler Murray, because the Cardinals' 2 best games this season came with Brissett under center. Went blow for blow with 2 good teams in the Packers and the Colts over these 2 games. Kyler Murray's last game was a loss to the Titans, I believe. It's hard to see an outright change with both rostered and healthy, but it's more clear than ever, I think, that Murray's not the answer in Arizona. And I don't know if you can trade him because his contract is pretty much a mess for guaranteed money the next couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird situations. It's from a fantasy perspective or even just a betting perspective, even an entertainment perspective. Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr., 2 guys I really believe have like top 5 receiver in the NFL potential, and just stuck waiting out what's going to happen with these quarterbacks. I mean,
Yeah.
Harrison had a rough start with some drops early this season, but I don't know how much you can put on him, just given the friction and the constant speed bumps with Kyler Murray's injury situation, him being in and out of the lineup. On the flip side, like Garrett Wilson has been, I don't know if there's been injury stuff going on, but for me, Justin Fields, I'm more confused on who Justin Fields is as a quarterback than any player in the NFL. There's been moments of brilliance from him in different systems, and then whatever this is with Aaron Glenn in New York is just not working. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is going to be the answer. Weirdly, I kind of buy that Brissett could make the Cardinals competitive. Are you with me on that, or are you selling both of these teams with the changes?
I do. I mean, it's only been 2 games, but the eye test says it. They were good teams, the best teams the Cardinals have played. They have a really solid defense, and Brissett brought more out of that offense without James Conner. Keep in mind, Bam Knight, Michael Carter in the backfield here, and the team was good. So I don't know if the Cardinals are going to do something like that, but it seems like they should.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, my biggest takeaway from week 7, there's 3 teams that I think we've reached the point in the season you have to at least acknowledge the possibility that these teams are going to be playoff teams or teams that could win a playoff game. And I can't believe I'm saying that about a few of these, but I'll kind of go through my 3 right now, starting with the Carolina Panthers. Carolina's sitting here at 4-3. They've won 3 straight games. Can't believe I'm saying that. I mean, not 1 second this season have I watched Carolina and felt that they're all that dangerous whatsoever. However, they found something in the running back room. We know that Rico Dowdle's been sensational. And as much as the Bryce Young injury comes at a bad time, this is one of those situations that I step back and look at this. I kind of like Andy Dalton under center for Carolina. I think he's a guy that can win football games, and I don't know how much of a step backwards it's going to be from Bryce Young. So this is very much just a I can't believe they're here moment for me. But when they win 3 straight, they're now 4-3, sitting 1 game back of the division in the NFC South. They have my full attention. The next 2 on the list are teams I'm actually buying to potentially be playoff teams this year. One is the New England Patriots. Drake May living up to the superstar turn that we thought was possible before he was an NFL draft pick here. He was electric in college, and it took him a year. He's kind of this hit or miss guy. You know, he'll make a negative play once every 3 drives, but the other 2 drives are sensational. He seems to be ironing out those negative plays right now. And while Buffalo sort of stagnates, I mean, they're a great team. They're always going to be up there with Josh Allen, but there are holes in that roster. They're sitting there playing with their food. New England has quietly surpassed them by a half game atop the AFC East and by 18 points in terms of point differential on the season. I mean, they have been a better football team than Buffalo. It's ahead of schedule. I think you were hoping this would happen maybe next year if you're a New England fan, but you have to tip your cap to Drake May for what he's done. And then lastly, a team I talked about a bunch at the beginning of the year, the Chicago Bears. They're not getting anyone's attention because the NFC North is loaded. I mean, the worst team in that division is Minnesota at 3-3. There's a bunch of teams that are worthy of playoff contention for the second straight year in this division. Chicago 4-2, though, won 4 straight games. The Ben Johnson experiment is working. And Caleb Williams, just like Drake May, is a guy that had number 1 pick potential. Ultimately, he was the number 1 pick. It was a really rocky first season for him. He looks like a different guy. He's commanding this offense. He's spreading the ball around. You've seen guys like Olamide Zaccheaus and even Luther Burden start to emerge in this offense a little bit. It really is an everybody eats approach on that end. Meanwhile, their defense has just kept them repeatedly in good positions, putting the other team behind the sticks. For me, if Chicago is in a different division, I'd be buying them to make the playoffs for sure. If they can just get to the wild card, I think they're going to be a dangerous team, much like New England. So for my money, I believe the Patriots and the Bears are here to stay. Carolina, I want to see what they look like without Bryce Young, but all 3 have my attention.
Yeah, I like what you said about Andy Dalton. You know, it's I think the team's been winning a bit in spite of Bryce Young, though I think he looks a little bit better than he had in his first rocky few seasons. So yeah, the Red Rifle returns once again to lead an NFL team in their most dire hour. So my next one is another team that Andy Dalton has once played for and led us to a couple victories in our dire hour. But the Cowboys defense is preventing a Dak Prescott MVP season this year. Dak would undoubtedly be an MVP favorite or at least a top 2 contender if this team had a defense, but they simply won't win enough games unless something turns around drastically. Potentially opening value for him there. He did drop from 2,500 to 2,200 over the past couple weeks. 3-1 isn't the worst place to be for the Cowboys, but the Rams are the 7 seed right now at 5-2. The NFC is just loaded. The teams in the wild card spots are very good. Lions, Seahawks, and Rams. Really hard to see them falling out, which kind of bolts this playoff window shut for some of these hopeful teams. You know, like Carolina 4-3, but that's another hump they have to get over here is the level of competition of these playoff teams that are taking up the wild card spots right now in the NFC. Probably going to keep the Cowboys out unless they can manage to overcome the Eagles in the division, which I guess is possible. They're only, I guess, a game and a half behind at this record with the tie, but you would have liked them to come away with that week 1 win if that's the case, and that's probably going to be what ultimately does them in if they make this a close one down the stretch.
Yep. Yeah. I feel for you, Dave, because Dak has been sensational. I mean, we talked about it. It's fun to bet the points in Cowboys games. It's fun to bet the overs. Like it's just been electric games, and he's been a big part of it. It's gone under the radar how good he has been this season, even without CeeDee Lamb for a couple weeks. But had to feel good to get one under your belt. Just kind of a no-doubter win this week for Dallas. I'm sure you enjoyed that. I am gonna finally accept that Indianapolis is a contender. That's where I'm at for my final takeaway here. 6-1 on the season. Man, do you remember sitting here in the final hours of the offseason, everyone shocked that they decided to turn away from Anthony Richardson? I mean, Colts fans were revolting. How can we go to Danny Dimes instead of Anthony Richardson? This is why. Daniel Jones can win you games. He's a good quarterback. And I give credit to this front office for making that move. Really. I mean, that is a move they knew was going to come with some serious pushback when in only 2 years you go away from a guy with the type of athletic prowess that Anthony Richardson has. But you only make that move if you felt that your team was capable of winning now. This is not a team in rebuild mode, and they correctly assessed that. I think that's a hard thing for a franchise to get right in this day and age, and they nailed it. Sitting here at 6-1 right now. Look, I don't like nitpicking schedules in the NFL. I think it's hard to win in this league. You lose. Good teams can lose to bad teams all the time in this league. Yeah. Wins are wins, but you could sit there when they were 5-1 and say, who have the wins come against? At home against Miami, at home against Las Vegas, at home against Arizona. This was a statement to go on the road against the LA Chargers, a team that everybody loves, and just be definitively better from start to finish. I thought it was a statement from a team that I am taking serious as a Super Bowl contender. I think this offense is ridiculous. We talked about the record that they had set earlier in the season with, the number of consecutive game streak that they had early on. Now, here they are. They've had one game where they scored 20 points in their loss to the Rams. Other than that, they've had 29 or more points every single week. I mean, this is the best offense in the NFL. I buy it as real, and I'm hoping that the Dimers model backs this up because I want to jump on the Indianapolis Colts to make a run in the playoffs, and I'm hoping we can get some analytics that help support my theory.
Yeah, I think I got to get a piece of them no matter what, probably. I'm going to have to take a look at the odds. I haven't really looked in too much futures stuff after yesterday's games. But, yeah, I was a pretty harsh critic of Daniel Jones when he was in New York. But it's probably safe to say that wasn't a fair place to assess his talent, as we've seen the same thing with Sam Darnold, just in the other team from New Jersey. So, yep, I'm all in there with you, Greg.
Yeah, in the weird alternate universe, Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley will be one of the big what ifs. Could we have had those guys together working? And hey, I don't mean to just rain on the Giants fans parade, but that's where the NFL is right now. Okay.
They'll lead the Steelers to a Super Bowl win in 2035.
Exactly. While we're saying shoulda, coulda, woulda for the New York Giants, let's do shoulda, coulda, woulda for your betting cards. What should you have bet last week?
Should have bet that.
Get away, my good sir.
Yeah, well, Greg, you set us up with another productive college corner, 5-1 run now over the past 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to digging into that one with you later. My play of the week, I had a Gibbs receiving ladder and a Mason Taylor receiving ladder. Mason Taylor one went down in flames, but Jahmyr Gibbs cashed not only in the game, but in the first quarter, all the way up the ladder from 5 to 30, maxed it out. It was pretty sweet. As we said, the guy can do it on pretty much one catch. I think he took one for about half of that, and the rest was history. We had another productive week in Dimers Platinum, snapped right back with a 6-2 week. We are up to 5.74 units on the year and a 6.15% ROI. A couple other receiving ladders hit on Thursday Night Football. In the first quarter, we talked about T. Higgins and Jalen Warren hitting their numbers early. Both of them did that. Both were featured in the parlay. Did not get that. We came up short on the touchdown. We also sniped the tight end usage in that game. All 4 touchdowns scored by the Steelers were a tight end. So if you used one of those for your touchdown jackpot and it wasn't Darnell Washington, you made out pretty well there. Dimers NFL spreads went 10-5 for another productive week all around. And the Cowboys cheat code that we discussed, where you bet the underdog and the over, cashed. As long as you bet it early in the week when the Cowboys were the underdog, after everybody got ruled out, it was -1.5 the other way. And the Cowboys won that game, as we well know. But that early value of Cowboys going over and the dog to cover has been just an absolute money printer this season.
I love that shout. It's like taking like a quiz in school and you just have the rubric. That's what it feels like with the underdog and the over in Dallas every single week. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But, Good week. Again, lots of wins, which is what we want from this program. We're working every single week to help make sense of all of the great information that the Dimers model has for you. Reminder, if you want access to all of this information on your own, whenever you want it, on demand, Dimers Pro is what you need. Get 50% off of Dimers Pro with promo code podcast. That is a special promo code we've set up just for listeners of this show. 50% off your first purchase. Get your futures, get your player props, player projections, anything you want against the spread numbers, probabilities to win on the money line for every single sport you could bet. It's all right there. Make sure you don't miss it. With that said, it's time to turn the page. Week 8 is here, and we've got an early look at some against the spread picks.
The early edge.
So top 3 spreads go 1 and 2 last week. We got bit by the Commanders' entire offense not playing. We had their minus 1.5 as a top spread early in the week. If you happen to wait and you got the updated pick when that changed and the Cowboys were favored, then you got that. You would have been on the Cowboys side. Still in a nice little 6-3 run since we moved to showcasing just the top 3 on this segment. And we've got 3 this week, plus a little bonus pick. It's outside the top 5, but I think worth a look based off some of the early data. I'll pull them up here and we'll dive right in. One of these is a team that's already been discussed on this episode, and that's the Bears 6.5 at the Ravens. It's 57% probability, 5.7% edge. You can get that minus 105 on BetMGM. Bears, as mentioned, look like they're right on the cusp of being an actual really good team. They're 4 wins in a row, I believe you said, Greg. Now they get that exploitable Ravens defense that has been tasked all season long. 28th ranked versus the pass, 3rd most touchdowns allowed, 27th ranked versus the rush at 134 yards per game, and tied for the 2nd most touchdowns allowed on the ground. Expectation is that Lamar returns after this bye week, as was kind of anticipated and alluded to before, but he didn't practice on Monday, so that still remains kind of up in the air. Even if he does play, we talked about how he didn't look quite himself before the injury. Hamstring injury is very wildly. Look at Egbuka, who didn't miss time. He only missed like half a game. He didn't look quite there, though. If Lamar is not all the way back, but they feel inclined to play him to try and salvage the season, you may have to wonder how mobile he'll be. This Bears backfield is getting a lot more interesting, as Kyle Monangai had his best game of the week. We're going to talk about that later on the fantasy waiver wire segment. A 2-headed rushing attack is far more daunting versus an exploitable rushing defense than a single back you could kind of focus your attention on. And Monangai and Swift went for almost 200 combined total yards. I think they might have cleared that if you count their rushing and receiving. So while the Bears rushing defense isn't great, and the Ravens do have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Neither of them have looked to be their usual self this year. Maybe this is the game they get going, but I think the Bears are in a really great position here as almost full touchdown dogs. I know you, Greg, would like the 7.5 or the +7 at least, but it's seems to be a really good spot for the Bears, the way that both these teams are trending.
I'll take 6. I'll take anything over a field goal here. Truly, I'm stunned by this line. It just has to be the assumption that Lamar Jackson's back. Even with Lamar Jackson, this team's been bad. This team has not earned this type of belief from the sports books, even with a healthy quarterback. Again, the Bears are playing great football right now. I think this is like a statement type opportunity for them where if you look beneath the surface, yes, it's still the Baltimore Ravens. It's not the Ravens from the last 5 years. It's just not. This is by far the worst version we've seen. They're super banged up, even if Lamar plays. I think this is like the play of the year for me at an early glance, and I'm glad the model backs it up because I had it all over my personal card.
And it's not like the Chiefs, right? Where we're like, oh, it's still the Chiefs. We could kind of say that. Like the Ravens are missing a lot of defensive guys, but their offense is loaded and should be rolling, and they simply haven't. The Chiefs were doing, scraping by without their full strength offense, and now it's there. And doesn't feel like the Ravens are a game away from the level that the Chiefs have reached in this one. I'm not sure what the money line value is in this game. But it's probably worth a look. And maybe if you're a big fan of that Bears spread, see if you can take it 3.5, take it 3, get a better price But yeah, everything seems like it's trending in Chicago's favor here. Next one, Vikings, kind of going back to one that we had last week. +3 against the Chargers here, -110, 56.5% probability, 5.2% edge there. I don't know why the odds didn't show up in the screenshot. I just noticed. But yeah, -110. I think you can get it at. This is a Thursday night game, so quick turnaround for both teams reeling from a loss. Vikings had all the chances to close it out against the Eagles, which was one of our top spreads and one of our bets of the week. They had the lead with 4 minutes to go. Got possibly robbed on a Hawkinson touchdown that was overturned. So, they were right there. What they're going to do on the short week is obviously the biggest question. Chargers crumbling here, 27 plus points allowed in the last 3 games. Their only win since week 3 was against the Dolphins. With everything on the line, this past week, they led a 21-play drive that turned over on downs at the Colts 45. It was just like a really sad kind of display of a team that really needs things to turn around, and it doesn't feel like that's going to get any easier for them on the short week. This past game was probably the only real blemish for the Vikings defense this season. They got pretty burned by the Eagles wideouts, although they did still manage to hold A.J. Brown to just 4 catches. He did most of his damage on a single play. Projects as a 2-point win for the Chargers in our final score. So it's certainly a close one. I do like the Vikings getting the high value signal alongside the cover. We've seen that work out the most often is when the edge is represented by that signal. So probably another play for me here. Be curious to see what you think about this one, Greg, given you were all up on the Vikings last week with me.
It's a novice better mistake to feel burned by a team and let it linger into the next week. But I think that is where I'm at with Minnesota right now until they get some quarterback clarity. We did talk about it last week, and look, Carson Wentz was worse than I think either one of us expected last week. Just some erratic plays that certainly set that team back. It swung the game. I don't know what McCarthy is. I think he's going to come back. I mean, if Wentz has not won the job, right? He has not emerged as the guy that's going to pull a Sam Darnold for this team the way we thought might happen. McCarthy was supposed to be back last week and was ruled out late. So at this point, until we have clarity, I find it hard to put much faith in them. Clearly, the model thinks Minnesota is just a good football team, and they're not bad, right? They're 500 with close loss to Philadelphia isn't the end of the world. But from a personal standpoint, I really don't want part of it until we get clarity under center. I'm not surprised the model continues to show value in Minnesota at all, though.
Yeah, I'm pretty much aligned with you there, Greg. This is one that I'd be happy to wait on. Obviously, we're going to talk about this game much more in depth on Thursday when we do our Thursday Night Football preview anyway. So I don't think there's a rush to grab this one. Whereas with the Bears pick, if Lamar doesn't practice again today or tomorrow, or there's an update there, you probably won't get this number, especially if Lamar doesn't play. So whereas that's when I'd want to jump on now. I'm fine not touching the Vikings till Thursday. Let's see what we get with the most up-to-date projections from the model.
Yep.
And let's close out with one that I was more than happy to put in here. Cowboys +3 on the road in Denver. A game I was actually hoping to go to before the season, but scrapped those plans. But that's okay. 56.5% probability, 6.6 or 5% edge here. Almost even money, depending where you get it. I did see it at +100. So if you can get that, of course, go for there. Something's got to give in this one, right? You have the pretty much best offense in the NFL, scoring at will, and the second best defense in the NFL, holding teams to nothing at will. You could say the Cowboys offense might be a little bit of a product of opponent, but even when they played good teams, they still scored. The games were going over. The team's healthy. It's loaded on offense. Dak Prescott's playing out of his mind. The Broncos' second-rate defense by points allowed certainly set up to slow them down. Best red zone defense in the NFL, only 28.6% touchdown rate to opponents when inside the 20. The Cowboys have been pretty good at scoring down there. This is probably not going to be a big Javonte Williams game. I would definitely temper expectations for touchdown upside if you were playing him in fantasy. Looks like not literally anyone can beat the Cowboys defense, as the Commanders B squad couldn't really get anything going, much to my chagrin. I was really all in on Luke McCaffrey doing some work on Sunday, and he was like basically just on a milk carton. So that was disappointing. This obviously is going to be a little bit different. This isn't a B squad, though the receiver room is far from the strongest in the NFL, with Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims taking up spots 2 and 3 there. Couple little notes I got. Bo Nix rushing ladder, probably interesting in this one. Cowboys allowing the second most yards to quarterbacks on the ground. Their 0.4 touchdowns per game to quarterbacks is the second worst mark, or tied for the second worst mark in the NFL. And this game's in Denver. Brandon Aubrey might kick a 75-yard field goal in this. Like,
I mean,
yeah, might just.
First off, I hope so. Second of all, can you imagine if you call that? Like, I've texted you a couple times throughout the weeks of doing the show. Like, dude, you got to clip that. You nailed that perfectly. Like, this would be your wildest one yet. Brandon Aubrey from 75.
It would be. I'm going to see if there's any way I can possibly bet that some market related to that, but he's just so good, and they're gonna let him, they're gonna take the kickoff. They're gonna take the kickoff, run it out to 35, and just immediately trot out the field goal unit and let him just boot one, get the record, and call it a day, regardless of what happens in this game.
Yeah, I love it. I weirdly feel like I want to buy into Dallas. I feel like their record doesn't necessarily show how good that offense has been. Obviously, the defense opens the door for anybody, but maybe a reminder, there are some bad offenses in this league. And as good as Denver can be at times, Bo Nix had that historic fourth quarter. There aren't some weapons I really love here. I don't love the running back room. I don't think he's throwing to guys that would play on any other team in the league for the most part. This is a team, I mean, give them credit for the comeback. This is a team that was down 4 scores to New York. Like that, that's not exactly a great data point. You've got to score for 4 quarters, not just 1 quarter, to keep up with Dallas. So I stand in alignment with the model on this one. Throw that over in there. Let's take that cheat code and keep it moving. You've got a bonus pick for us here as well, and it's a team that came away with a victory on Sunday night. San Francisco getting 1.5 in Houston.
Yes, this is just an interesting one to me because you can see it plus 1.5. I've seen it basically a pick 'em, Texans minus 0.5. But depending on where you look, the 49ers and Texans are almost the same odds on the money line. I think I saw minus 104 and minus 112, minus 115. So it's just kind of a basic, if you're getting almost the same odds on teams to win, both are quite literally favored on the money line. The guy or the team with the plus 1.5 is probably the better bet. 53.5% probability for the Niners to cover plus 1.5 on the road against the Texans, who are coming off a really great game. Statement by the defense that cost me a fantasy matchup that I was certain I was already winning. And so it's just a good spot for me. If it's a best bet, we'll talk about it on Thursday with our week 8 best bets. But I just think it's one worth looking at, given the seemingly better ceiling for the 49ers here and pretty much same odds on the money line on the books.
Yep. All right. There you have it. 4 picks for the price of 3 today. For the price of 1 Dimers Pro, you can get Dimers Pro, but 50% off. So half a Dimers Pro. Promo code podcast. Make sure you get it. That's how you get your early insights for every single week 8 NFL game and plenty more. Now it's time for one of my favorite segments of the week. It's the Fantasy Waiver Wire.
The Fantasy Waiver Wire.
You gave us Jackson Dart last week. He spit out an all-timer performance. So let's find the next Jackson Dart. What do you got?
Yeah, well, the next Jackson Dart is Jackson Dart because for some reason this guy is still rostered in only 42% of 12-team Yahoo leagues. I know a lot there, at this point in the season, there's a lot of dormant leagues out there, a lot of home leagues that aren't too serious. But if you need a quarterback, if you're in a competitive league and Jackson Dart is available, just pick him up. That's it. That's pretty much the pitch. I'll talk about his points, but that's it.
It's a good pitch.
I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing. I replaced Cam Ward with him, and I haven't looked back. Tons of bye weeks in week 8. So if you don't need any of these guys, I might not break the bank or burn a top overall waiver wire ad. most of these guys are probably going to be for fantasy teams who are missing some considerable players with 6 teams on bye. But first overall has got to be Kyle Monangai for the Bears. He's only 7% rostered, so he's out there. He's basically free. Doubled his production on the season on Sunday. Through 5 games, he had 81 rushing yards. He's got 162 on the year now. Swift is still the clear lead back, but both were efficient. There's no turning back to a one-headed monster now. It's going to be the two-headed committee. Projections aren't really reflecting this quite yet. 5.1 PPR points, 21.3 rushing yards, but 19.9% anytime TD probability is Monangai's highest we've seen on the season. And if this is a split, he just probably won't be available for much longer. So take him, stash him. If you don't need him, keep someone else from getting him. Next one is a guy.
Not to jump in, but just quick. I've had him stashed since the draft in a 12-team league that I'm in, largely because of my belief Ben Johnson is a 2 running back guy. He is. Yeah. He's done this his entire time in Detroit. We're seeing that come. Monangai got a few chances very early in the season. I thought he's been good from like a yards per carry perspective. He passes the eye test. Swift is dynamic. He's great. But if you think to the way the Detroit Lions ran under Ben Johnson for 2 years, they want the dynamic skill, big play guy, and then they want the run into a wall, seek out contact guy. That's what Monangai is. He runs like Isaiah Pacheco. I think this is going to take a big leap at some point in the next month. It might as well be now. If he's available, it's the time to jump in.
Yeah, great addition there, Greg. That is a really good point because I didn't even think about the Ben Johnson factor here. Just thinking purely on a who you need to roster perspective, and that's a great point. Next guy is, you probably don't even need to pick him up this week. He's not playing this week. Bam Knight for the Cardinals. This is the first game he didn't score since getting work after the Connor and Benson injuries, but he took 14 carries for 57 yards. That was his biggest workload, most efficient, and far outproduced Michael Carter's 7 carries for 11. So if you are running back needy and can stash a guy, that's who I would go with. But keep in mind, he's not playing this week. Couple wide receivers here. Troy Franklin of the Broncos, 21% rostered. He's wide receiver 2 in Denver. Now he's going to get the Cowboys defense, who have let second and third guys put up numbers all season long, except for this past week. Projected 6.8 PPR points, 30.2 receiving yards, 19% touchdown probability. Wide receiver Kayshon Boutte, Patriots, 33% rostered, so on the higher end here. Only 2 targets last week, which is his lowest usage since week 2, but he has 3 touchdowns over the past 2 games. Continues to emerge, projects for 8 PPR points and a 22% TD probability this week. Tez Johnson for the Bucks, another wide receiver, pretty high up on my radar. He's only 17% rostered. Mike Evans is now likely out for the season, or just about all of it, with a broken collarbone. Ekbuka looks hampered by the hamstring still a little bit. You're getting a free piece of this Baker offense if you pick him up. Touchdown in back-to-back weeks, big plays. 7.1 PPR points, 21% TD probability. I already mentioned Jackson Dart, pretty much of the QB. Only one I would be jumping to add this week. Everyone else is just a streamer at best. And then arguably the ad of the week, tight end Oronde Gadsden for the Chargers. 5% rostered, back-to-back big games. Just had one of the best tight end performances in years on Sunday. 14 of 17 targets for 232 yards and a touchdown over his past 2 weeks. Maybe most notably, he's 3rd in target share and ran routes on nearly 80% of Herbert's dropbacks in those games. Projected for 9.1 PPR points, the most out of these guys, save for Jackson Dart, just under 40 yards and a 20% touchdown probability. Seemingly came out of nowhere, this guy. I've admittedly been less plugged into the sleepers than I have been in the past this year with fantasy, but yeah, out of nowhere, and a pretty crowded offense already, and he's producing.
Yeah, it's impressive. It has been wild to see his emergence in recent weeks. All right, bunch of good names there. I am partial to the Tez Johnson shout, to be honest with you. Almost found the end zone twice this week on Monday night. I think the Evans injury is going to be everything to that offense. He's such a reliable horse, and The big caveat here might be the offense may take a major step back without him. We've seen Emeka sort of stagnate in recent weeks after that stellar first month of the year. I still love Emeka Ibuka. Tez Johnson may be the one recipient of it, though. If he's going to get all the attention with Mike Evans out, Emeka, that is, you got to have the big play threat that can beat you over the top. Even if it's one catch for 60 yards and a touchdown, that's more than enough to pay off your ROI for a little waiver ad here. So I like the shouts. Good names, Dave. Thank you, as always. Great intel. We do our waiver wire every single week. We want to help you win your bets. We also want to help you win your fantasy league. I am partial to helping you win your college football survivor pools, folks. I have another college corner for you this week. Let's get right to it.
College Corner.
I stumbled over my words on the intro to the College Corner this week. We haven't been stumbling on the picks, that's for sure. 5-1 in the College Corner in the last 2 weeks. I feel confident. I think we should be confident. Reminder, the way that this has worked for me in these last couple weeks, I have basically gone through Dimer's best bets sorted by edge and then gone down the list and mapped it with my personal cards to give you a fusion of whatever personal value I bring, but more importantly, what the Dimer's model brings. There are plenty more college football best bets on a week-to-week basis than just these three we bring you in the College Corner. I haven't kept a spreadsheet tracking all of them. I have bet quite a few of them. I can tell you this: they all win more than they lose when you follow the Dimer's model. So you should definitely tap into the plenty full bets that they have. I see over 20 early edge best bets for week 9 of college football right now. But my 3 that I have honed in on this week are Mississippi versus Oklahoma. We're going to take Ole Miss plus 5.5. This is the second time in a few short weeks that Ole Miss has been the target for me here. They've just been a totally different offense than they were early in the season with Trinidad Chambliss, the new quarterback that has taken over under center. Chambliss is an electric dual threat guy that is just a perfect fit in the Lane Kiffin offense. He's a guy that started at the non-Division I level here in the state of Michigan, where I'm from. I knew about what he was doing before he took the jump up to the Ole Miss, to the SEC ranks, and he is just passed with more than an A+ grade. He's changed their season. They're catching 5.5 points here against Oklahoma, an Oklahoma team that got off to a really hot start, but has hit a wall in recent weeks, largely due to the injury status of quarterback John Mateer. Now, you know, Mateer is still good. We expect him to play at this point. He's back, but he's not the same guy that he was in the first month of the season. Catching 5.5 is a huge edge. Dimer sees it too. 8.5% edge, 61% probability. You've got to take it. For my next 2 picks, they're both in the Big Ten. Wisconsin and Oregon under 44.5. Pretty simple play here. Wisconsin can't score. Cannot score. This team, there's been so much dismay within this program this year with Luke Fickell sort of limping to the finish line here. And they just, against quality opponents, have had zero success whatsoever. Back-to-back shutouts. They didn't score against Iowa. They didn't score last week against Ohio State. Both of those games ended up under the total. I don't know what you do with an offense this miserable right now. Oregon is elite. This is another elite team. They went on the road to Piscataway and stomped them by about 60 points last week. I don't know how you can bet on Wisconsin to score. And that number, 44.5, is almost entirely built around what Oregon's going to want to beat them by. Oregon isn't motivated to hang 60 points on Wisconsin. They just don't need to do it. I think you're going to see them build a big lead and kind of try and get out of there healthy, much like Ohio State and Iowa have done before them. The under is huge here for me, 60% probability. The last play of the week, Northwestern, plus 7.5 against Nebraska. Nebraska is a constant fade target for me. 0-5 against the spread against power conference opponents this year. They were a sheep in wolves' clothing before last week when they finally got exposed and lost outright as a favorite. Now, it's not the time to jump on against Nebraska from a money line perspective, largely because that was last week. We would expect them to bounce back in some form. But the bottom line is this. They've got a big-armed quarterback. That's about all they've got. This is not a well-rounded football team against quality opponents. They like to play dogfights. It's all they can do. Northwestern's incredibly well-coached, incredibly undervalued as a program this year. They're up to 5-2 on the season. They can clinch bowl eligibility with this. It's that good number that I always lick my chops at. Plus 7.5. You catch the half point above a touchdown against a Nebraska team that can't cover against anybody in the Big Ten. I think this is a great spot. Dimers agrees, 58% probability. Those are the three for the week. As we mentioned, 5-1 over the last 2 weeks in our College Corner picks. Ole Miss plus 5.5, Wisconsin, Oregon under 44.5, and Northwestern plus 7.5.
Love it, Greg. You recommend it. I bet it. And when it has a 60% probability and a high value edge, it's just pretty much a double down for me. I'm all in with you here.
Salute. We stand in solidarity, us two soldiers together in the battlefield that is sports betting. Hey, like and subscribe this show. That way you get College Corner all year long. Every single time it drops, you'll get notified. We want to grow this show as big as we possibly can. Every 5-star review helps. Every comment, every interaction helps us make the show exactly what we want it to be. Our goal is to continue bringing you this show year round. Hopefully we can grow it to something that you'll want to listen to year round. So let us know if you're enjoying the show. We appreciate all feedback and all support every step of the way. Let's transition to some golf here. We got the Bank of Utah Championship this week. FedEx Cup Fall is back. This is the 4th event of the fall. What are we looking at for the Bank of Utah Championship?
Yeah, so pretty excited to get back into it after a week off. We cashed Xander Scuffley at plus 1,100 in the last tournament, Bay Current Classic. That's our second outright win and third if you played Griffin without Scheffler at the which one was that? I forgot the name of the tournament. Excuse me, but or played Scheffler at his short odds in that one. But over the past 4 events, we've picked 3 winners and at least 1 ladder play. So model's firing, and we got a bunch of edges on this one. I'm going to bring up the predictions here, and then we'll just run through our top picks all around. So we're going to Utah, Black Desert Resort Golf Course, 7,421 yard par 70. This is a really unique layout because it is literally carved into lava rock. It's like a treeless golf course. There's red rocks all around. It's really beautiful. It's brutal if you miss the fairway because you're probably bouncing off the rocks and stuff. But it played as a birdie fest last year. I would expect low scores again, even though it's about 50 yards longer. I think they added about 25 yards on one hole and split the difference on some other 3. So should be pretty much the same. Big stats here are putting, probably most important. The greens can get a little crazy. Approach from higher distances and off the tee where you want to prioritize accuracy over distance. And I'm just going to run through our value bets real quick here. You can see them in the predictions on the screen. And I'm just going to talk about each of these guys real quick. First up is Maverick McNeely. He's the tournament favorite and the model favorite. Not uncommon that we see that, but he's got a nice little edge. He'd be fair at plus 1025. You can get him plus 1600. He's got a little edge at top 10 and top 5 as well. Solid form with a 3rd place at the BMW Championship. T13 in his only event of the fall. 7 top 10s this year. 21st in putting. 55th off the tee. Not the best on approach, but his distance should shorten up these holes. That's our best bet based on value and probability. Our second guy, Alex Noren, 6.3% plus 2,000. A favorite of the Dimers model. Fair at plus 1,500 here. He gets a top 20 edge at plus money, and he's only one of 2 guys, him and McNeely, who are 50% or higher to finish top 20. Short season for Noren after returning from injury back in May. He finished this year, though, with a T7 and T3 in big events, and then won twice on the DP World Tour since. He's in pretty much as good form as you could be in the fall for a player who didn't even golf the full season. Good putter, accurate driver, and he's sitting outside the top 100 in points, so he basically needs to start racking them up over these next couple tournaments. I think, as I mentioned, fair odds at plus 1,500, so a nice value here at plus 2,000. Jason Day, 4.8%, plus 2,800, fair at plus 2,000. He's got a small edge in placements for a ladder play. If there was one guy you were doing, it'd probably be him based on the model's projections. This is his first action on the tour since the BMW Championship in the playoffs. Finished T23 there. He's got kind of a mixed bag of stats. Decent putter, ranked 61st, but he's above average. Right at field average in driving accuracy. Solid off the tee. Might have a little bit of rust to deal with here. Christian Bezuidenhout, 3.8% plus 3,500, fair at plus 2,500. So $100 difference there for a $10 better. He's a ladder play. Top 10 in back-to-back stops on the fall circuit. 11th ranked putter, 29th most accurate off the tee. Distance is not really his strong suit. So he's probably appropriately priced as a long shot with upside here. And our last guy, he's actually off screen here. I'll roll down. Billy Horschel, 2.5% at plus 7,000. This would be fair at plus 3,900. So a huge difference, although that probability gap is actually, I think, 1% or less. Returned after injury absence to an up and down tournament. Last one around at the Bay Current. Finished his first round of 77, bounced right back with a 66, finished even on the tournament. Strength has always been his putting, and he flashed upside with a couple top 10s this year. But, another guy who might just be a little rusty, but great value. And just two guys that I like independent of the model projections, Michael Thorbjornsen at plus 1,800 and Matthew McCarty at plus 3,500. Guys I'll have on my card, even though they're a bit on the lower end of the probability scale.
All right. Lots of different ways to approach it. I love the PGA season. One of the most fun sports to bet is golf. We'll have you covered week in and week out throughout the PGA Tour schedule here on the Dimers Sports Betting Podcast. It's opening day of the NBA season today. Before we wrap the show, we do want to take a quick look at the NBA futures. I'll speak to a few of these as we pull up the model here, if you don't mind, Dave. But we've got 5 teams atop the Dimers model for the NBA championship this year. As you would expect, the Oklahoma City Thunder, almost 23% probability, plus 275. It's not a value bet at that price, but it is more than double the next likely champion. This tells you exactly where we think the NBA stands today, that it's Oklahoma City's title to lose and that a dynasty may be unfolding right in front of our eyes. Outside of Oklahoma City, we've got the Denver Nuggets at almost 11% likelihood to win the NBA championship. Cleveland Cavaliers, almost 10%. New York Knicks, 8.6%, fourth. And at 12-1, there's actually some value there. And then the Houston Rockets, fifth at 6% with Kevin Durant in the fold. 18-1 also shows value. So of those top 5, it would be the Knicks or the Rockets that we show some value on. But there's one team way outside of this top 5 you wanted to discuss here is the Boston Celtics. And you're wondering if they're a sleeper?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird that we're asking that, right? It's almost like that when we were talking about the Chiefs, like, are the Chiefs cooked? Are the Ravens good? Stuff like that. But look, Jason Tatum's hurt. We know that. He's recovering from, I believe, the Achilles injury. Just 1.4% for the Celtics to win the finals. That's at plus 6,000 on DraftKings. But that's not that far off from their fair odds of plus 7,000. That's not even a 0.5% probability difference. And they're as low as plus 3,000 on FanDuel. Like, that's literally half the odds. I saw that before the show, and I placed a bet on the Celtics because that is just such a massive discrepancy. To place a bet on the Celtics at plus 6,000, not plus 3,000, because that discrepancy is just too big. There's no reason for it to be that far apart. They're just plus 1,100 to win the East, 5.3% from the model there, and that's value at their best odds of plus 2,200 at BetMGM. They're minus 190 to make the playoffs. So if this team makes the playoffs, is healthy, has Jason Tatum, why are they plus 6,000? I don't know what I'm missing, but it's a play for me.
Yeah, I think the only thing I could even wrap my brain around is the idea that Boston might be approaching the season, viewing it as an opportunity to tank in a pretty loaded draft class. Now that's a stretch because with Jaylen Brown, they're still going to be competitive. But it's one of those things like AJ DeBonsa is kind of the name. He's a Northeast kid, but there's 3 guys that are viewed in the DeBonsa tier of it's a 3-man race for the number 1 pick. All of them, add any of them to Boston, they would be probably the favorite next year, or at least right in line with Oklahoma City. So that's the only thing I can even think of. I agree with you at this price point. It's at least worth a look. I'd also mention, Indiana, fresh off a run to the NBA Finals last year at only a 1% probability. Our model's not buying them whatsoever. 150-1. More than double the odds even of Boston. They were there a year ago. It's kind of crazy. So I think
that's an edge.
It's wide open, Dave. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's an edge. I think they'd be plus 9,000 fair at 1%. So, the model, I guess, does like them in that sense, but certainly not as far as stacking up against the rest of the crowd.
Yep, 100%. All right, we'll have NBA updates for you all season long. With that said, we are going to wrap the show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. We will be back again on Thursday. Remember to gamble responsibly, and we'll see you then.